Following President Trump's redesignation of Nigeria as a country of particular concern, the Nigerian government says it would welcome U.S. support in curtailing and destroying Boko Haram and other terrorist groups who have been brutally killing thousands in the West African country. But they continue to maintain that there is no Christian genocide in Nigeria, and state-supported religious persecution there is, quote, impossible.
It's impossible for there to be a religious persecution that can be supported in any way, shape, or form by the government of Nigeria at any level, be it federal, be it regional, be it local. It's impossible.
That was Nigerian's Minister of Foreign Affairs, Minister Tugar. Well, I have to say, those who have been monitoring the situation in Nigeria would strongly disagree with his take. Joining me now to discuss this, Congressman Marlin Stutzman, who last month introduced the Nigerian Religious Freedom Accountability Act of 2025 in the House of Representatives. He represents the 3rd Congressional District of Indiana. Congressman Stutzman, welcome back to Washington Watch. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you, Tony. Great to be with you this afternoon.
All right, so the Nigerian government wants us to believe that they had no part in the violence against Christians. Now, I will say this, from when I was chairman of USCIRF, I tracked it very closely. We did a lot of investigation in Nigeria. I wouldn't say that the government's pulling the trigger, but they're not stopping it.
Right. Yeah, no, that's exactly the way I would see it as well. And, I think what's happening is President Trump's international policy is definitely working in parts that, we're focused, of course, Iran, the Middle East, with what's happening, supporting Israel and standing with Israel in the Middle East. Of course, the conclusion of or hope that there's a conclusion here to the war in return to the attack on Israel from Gaza. The piece that you just ran a little bit ago says it so well about the fact that, Judea and Samaria should be protected. So there aren't going to be further terrorist attacks from that region. But we're seeing, jihadists moving now into Africa. They're always going to go to some place where they have, less resistance. And I think that's what's happening here, is that jihadists have moved into Nigeria. This has been going on for quite some time, but over the past year, it has just accelerated. And I don't know if you saw the video of the pastor that was standing in an open grave with dead bodies at his feet, and he was pleading, to America and to President Trump to help them. And I think that if there's anything that we should ever be able to do, is to stand with the vulnerable, to stand those who to stand with those who are standing for life and that are pro-life. And here we have Christians asking for help, and so we have filed a bill to bring those leaders accountable. And if this genocide continues, the leader there from Nigeria that says there is no genocide is going to see some repercussions from those decisions of not making sure that people of all sects are protected in Nigeria.
There's a number of reasons the United States has an interest here. First off, it's the human rights issue. This is the most dangerous place in the world to be a Christian. It's a country that's pretty much evenly divided between Christians and Muslims, but it's the most populous country in Africa, on the continent. The destabilization of Nigeria is going to have ripple effects across the entire continent, even into Europe. So this is something everyone should be concerned about. And you're absolutely right. What we've seen is these jihadists have moved into Africa where there's less opposition to them, and they're taking over and they're terrorizing. And in this particular case, the government, much like India, quite frankly, what's happening in India, just kind of different set of people, turning a blind eye to the persecution of the minorities.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. We see the same thing in Afghanistan with the Taliban. We saw the same thing even, pre 9/11 in Saudi Arabia, where they were turning a blind eye to these jihadist training camps. That's why it's important, in order to protect America, and I'm a full supporter of the America First agenda, we can also, walk and chew gum at the same time and make sure that we stand with our allies and those who want the same, peace and prosperity that we want here in America in other parts of the world. And there are bad people out there that will take advantage of innocent people every day in countries like this. And I think that there's so much potential in Africa But they see this as an opportunity to wipe out any opposition, to, of course, take out Christians who would disagree with them in those particular countries. But I applaud President Trump for calling out the Nigerian government with a post on social media, which has obviously can be heard around the world as he has in the past. But I think it should also send a message to other countries, including in the Middle East, like Syria and other countries, to make sure that they protect religious freedom. That is one of the crucial.
We just have a couple minutes left. Let's talk about Syria. You were there. You visited there shortly after the regime change. That de facto leader, Syria's de facto leader, Ahmed al-Sharar, will actually be meeting with President Trump on Friday.
Yeah.
This is kind of shocking, quite frankly, because there are religious minorities being, again, we don't know that they're being targeted by the government, but the government's not helping them there. What should the president be saying to him this week when they meet?
Well, I hope that that's part of the conversation that, look, I mean, the sanctions on Syria have already been voted on in the Senate to be lifted. And I know that I'm willing, and there's a lot of other House members, we want to help the Syrian people come out of the oppression that they have been under over the past several decades. But again, we don't want to go from one regime who said, oh, we're going to respect, religious rights and religious freedom, to a regime that doesn't. And, that's why I visited with al-Shara. Everything that he said is great to hear, but his actions obviously speak louder than words. And so I think the fact that he's visiting with Trump, and President Trump is a strong negotiator, that hopefully this is a sign that we're going to make sure the Syrian government is watching out for every person in Syria, and that that any sort of killing down in the Soweto area ends. And President Trump, I believe, has the ability to do that.
Congressman, just about 45 seconds left. Will you and some of your colleagues in the House block the lifting of those sanctions if there's not some guarantee?
Well, I don't know that we would have the votes to do that, but we're definitely, of course, talking to Speaker Mike Johnson, who's very sensitive to that situation. Of course, he's been in that region. He knows it as well. It's already passed the Senate. We're with the shutdown, we haven't had those conversations up close. But I think that's why this visit with President Trump and us bringing awareness to Secretary of State Marco Rubio and others, we were able to get a aid package that is being sent into the Soweto area. So I think things are going the right direction. We're going to use every tool that we have available to us to make sure they're protected. Well,
Congressman Stutzman, we appreciate you advocating for the vulnerable around the globe.